Hello there. Welcome back to Haas, our hard challenge that we are getting to the end of, probably within the next 2 or 3 episodes. However, currently we are in a bit of a sticky situation here as Red Bull has overtaken us with a 40-point lead, and Magnussen, while still in the lead of championship, it's not looking super good at this point. We are struggling a little bit, but honestly, I think we'll still come out on top at the end of this. We have been quite unlucky, I guess it's the best way to describe our current situation, but I think we'll be fine in the long run. We have just also changed our components for both cars, so we'll see exactly how this turns out, how it's going to reward us. But with round 15 coming up, we're basically done 2/3 of the season, and in this last third, I do believe that we will be capable of getting back the points that we have to some degree lost by bad strategy, by incidents, and just generally being a tad unlucky. I do have hope for that. So currently, just to give you a quick update, our car is still incredibly good. We are the best team in cornering. We are the best DRS team. We are the best, well, almost the best acceleration team. And we do suck a little bit at the top speed aspect of the car, but we have huge cornering advantages over Red Bull, with the exception of high speed. We are still quite a bit behind in top speed department, but I still think we'll be fine, honestly, as long as we can avoid crashing the car at every given opportunity. But we're going to jump directly into the Italian GP here. We currently do have, well, Monza, Singapore, Suzuka, basically 9 races remaining. And of these, we do have a few sprints, but I do have faith that we'll get this done by the end. And the goal for today is going to be to try and condense this episode a little bit so that we get through, hopefully, half of the races remaining. And maybe even more than that, we'll see exactly how the races go. But I'd like to speed things up here a little bit, as I do wish to get into my next challenge, which is going to be the maximum weight one. But I'd like to finish at least 2 series before I get that one started. So let's jump directly into the Italian GP. Wish me luck. Qualifying went well. We qualified first and third, with Red Bull as 4th and 5th. Perez taking a bit of a penalty. Then we have Leclerc and Sainz, as well as Hamilton and Alonso. So Alpine and Albon making a bit of a surprise show up here in Q3. Well, the strategy for this race, I was a little bit uncertain, but I think we're going to go with a one-stopper hard to medium. We start on the hard tire and push it full attack. We go light and medium. It is comparable to a 2-stopper, but it's just, again, a 1-stopper. So that makes it a little bit more valuable, as we will be able to avoid any, pit stop incidents. We will not be stuck in traffic for long. So generally, the 1-stopper is most likely going to be faster, so we'll be using that for both cars. So we've had a decent enough start to this race. Magnussen and Leclerc eked out a bit of a gap, but we are basically the only hard runners on track at the moment, with the exception of Alonso and to some degree Russell. So as the first stint develops, we should be getting more and more of an advantage, and hopefully we can eke out a little bit of a gap before we do end up pitting ourselves. But because of the fact that everyone is more or less on the soft tires, they should be pitting before us. So we might be able to do a little bit of overtaking from the back. We'll have to see how it develops. We, of course, are going to have to try and best it to get away from Verstappen. First set of pit stops are done. Magnussen in 3rd, Verstappen in 5th. We have Hulkenberg in 6th. But as you can see, Alonso needs to pit. Everyone else has gone onto a hard tire. So potentially here, towards the end of this race, we're going to get more and more of an advantage, provided we take care of our tires a little bit. We are going to have to do a little bit of recharging as well. We also had an incident here with multiple cars crashed. I don't think it's any of ours, luckily enough. There's Gasly and Stroll by the looks of things. That's a bit of a rough hit, but I think both will still be running, so I think we're fine. But yeah, so far so good. We'll have to see if this actually does pan out in the long run. Everyone else is on the hard tire, and probably will be on the hard tire until the end. So what we could do here is try and do something a little bit cheeky, like going full attack. But honestly, I do like where our cars are at the moment, and if we take good care of these medium tires, we should be fine towards the end of this stint. So let's see how it all turns out. We're getting increasingly closer to the end. Hulkenberg has unfortunately been stuck in a bit of a DRS train that has slowed him down quite a lot, I'll be honest. So he's currently fighting both Perez, Verstappen and Sainz. Magnussen, on the other hand, is fighting currently just Magnussen. And we're going to give him all the energy right now to create that. Sorry, Magnussen just fighting Leclerc. And we'll give him everything he has to just create a bit of a gap to Leclerc and push on for at least another lap, trying to snatch fastest lap. Hulkenberg currently does hold it, but I'm a little bit concerned that he'll not be holding it at the end. We'll also be giving Hulkenberg orders here to go high on the overtake aggression, as I would love to get at least one more Red Bull before the end of this. And just as I say that, Hulkenberg does a double overtake, and we'll probably, going on to this final lap, get Verstappen potentially too, down the main straight. And it looks like he is gonna, no, maybe not pull that off. So, shame that I missed the replay of the overtake. But Hulkenberg is now in a very, very good position to potentially snatch last podium spot here. Now, Leclerc has been good, and again, Hulkenberg has been stuck in traffic. We just haven't been able to make any real roadways. We'd have to sacrifice too much tire, too much fuel, energy. You get the idea. We'd have to sacrifice far too much if we wanted him to get anything better than third. So that's kind of what we set him up here for. We just have him running light and conserve behind Verstappen, as he does get that final overtake done. But Verstappen might get him on the line here. We'll have to see. Magnussen wins, Leclerc second, Hulkenberg takes third. And what was a very straightforward race. We did the one pit stop, we came out next to the Red Bulls, we managed well, so not really too much to it. And as you'll probably see out throughout this episode, this is how we're going to be doing most races when there aren't too much going on. We'll try and condense it down to between 3 and 5 minutes. So let me know what you think of this. I do feel like my videos are getting more and more bloated. I want to try and get back down on it, be a little bit more concise like I've been in the past. So let me know what you think. That is kind of the idea with this one, trying to experiment a little bit on these races that doesn't really have too much going for it. So we might focus on the pit sequence, we might focus a little bit on the end of the race like we did here. And I think that would be a good compromise between showing absolutely everything that's happening. And I'll be working on finding a sweet spot, but let me know what you think. So yeah, that was the first race of today. Monza, 1-3. We can be happy with that. We beat both Red Bulls. Not really too much to say there. Leclerc getting second place is not a negative for us. Let's be perfectly honest here. And with this, Magnussen now extends the lead quite a bit up at the top there. Constructors, while we haven't caught up to Red Bull, one more race weekend like this, and we'll be right at their heels. So that is good to see. And while both of our pit stops were slow, they were basically what we needed from the team. And again, because we have a pretty bad pit crew, doing one-stoppers do benefit us doubly so due to that. Now, before we go into the next race, I will have a quick look at the pit crew, see if we can change anything. We'll be heading into Singapore in just a moment. We have some failed parts, however, that we do need to deal with. I'll handle that as soon as I can. And also, we have the suspension here becoming, getting a week's worth of time to cut off the development. Yeah, let us get the car prepared for the next race weekend. We actually do have a slight problem going into the next race weekend in the sense that we don't have an extra side pod, and we don't also have an extra chassis, so we're going to need to manufacture these. Now, luckily for the chassis, we do actually have one of the new spec, which is focused on top speed rather than cornering. And we'll be putting that on car 1, which is currently lacking a chassis. For the side pods, we don't actually have anyone other than the slower specs here available to us. So I'm going to head and take in the side pod 6 here and put 2 of them under manufacturing. We'll get one of them done before the next race, which will probably go again to car 1, which is Magnussen. And we'll just have to, deal with that. We will, however, be upgrading our car as we go. And we have front wing and suspension both coming in here in the near future. And as I said, I don't know if there's any real value at this point in designing any more car parts other than what we are already designing. We'll have to think a little bit about that. But honestly, as mentioned, we're getting a little bit too closer on the cost cap. 60 million remaining at season end. I do still think that we're going to need to probably buy a couple of extra engines. That is 10 million. So unless we see any real gains on the parts that we would be designing, I don't think there is a specific need to make them. If that makes sense. As an example here, if we take the rear wing, if I were to make another one at this moment, focused on top speed, drag reduction, we sacrifice everything else, it would give us a slight boost across the table, but the cost, again, isn't really worth it. We still need to be able to manufacturing parts for the last third of the season. So we are kind of in a position here where, while it could be beneficial to do, things like that, it most likely will not be. And again, this side pod is not really representative because we have 3 other designs, so it will not be that much of a boost. So what I'm thinking is our last design is most likely going to be with the next ATR period in a week. So let's see exactly what we do then. I'll have a bit of a look at the parts, see what would benefit us the most in terms of upgrading it. But we are currently in a position where we have worked quite a lot on everything. We have 6 side pods designs, we have 4 front wings, we have 6 rear wings, chassis we have 6 of, so we even have 6 underfloors. So as you probably are, understanding here, we have worked a lot on designs this season already, and we have a ton of them available to us. So what I'm thinking is that the next safety period, we're just going to use it on a simple project like the side pods, the chassis, something that we have kind of been, not focusing on this year so far. And that, I think, is going to benefit us long term. So that is exactly what we will do. Now, with that said, as mentioned, we are going to be able to manufacture the sideboard that we need before the next race in 11 days. It'll take 7 days. It says 21 here, but that's because Haas is terrible at manufacturing. So we are still pretty much on schedule. I'm not too worried. We're also going to go ahead and chuck in 2 more front wings, so we have a little bit of a stock. It's very important, as has to have stock, because, well, it takes a long time to manufacture anything. So we'll have to deal with that. Suspension will also be done in 4 days. We'll have to see if that is actually anything we'd like to improve on. I think it is. But as mentioned, we are kind of financially a little bit strained at the moment. So I'd like to win this season without breaking cost cap if possible. It might be a little bit more difficult than anticipated, but even if it is, we'll deal with that as we go. Now, in terms of our current suspension here, this is a very slight upgrade. So once we've used up the suspension that we have, we're probably going to jump up into this one. But suspension 2 there is kind of what I was talking about. The upgrades are so slight that it isn't worth for us to put millions into upgrading the car at the moment, or we might run out of money before the end of the season. We have a very good car. It's just getting the strategy correct. So I'll do it like that. But yeah, let us speed along here to Singapore. We are going to get a new aerodynamic period in just a day or so. And I'll have a look at what would be best invested, either chassis or side pod. But we are getting upgrades here for our drivers as well. Magnussen gets a point of cornering, point of accuracy for Hulkenberg. Very happy with both of those, honestly. And the car is still really, really good. Now, the car 1 performance here, the reason why we're second in medium and high speed, is due to that new chassis. That lowers it slightly. But on the flip side, our top speed, which was 18th before the new chassis, is now up to 5th. So, as you can see, there is some value. We're also very good at following in the low speed corners. So that is generally where we're going to try and get close and do overtakes. So, yeah, I think we have a car now that we can use pretty healthily here. And as you can see, we're still pretty fatigued after the last race weekend. So I think the only thing that we'll be doing here is sneaking in a couple of chance of mistake lessenings. And again, this is mainly due to the fact that we switched parts during race weekends, which is just a bit unfortunate, but it is what you kind of need to do to survive a full season. So I'm prepared to accept a lessening of the pit crew's stats as a result. I'm wondering how low the pit stop time can go, though. Is 4 seconds, 5 seconds? What is the maximum limit of how high the pit stop's performance will drop? But yeah, I think the idea is going to be very simple. We're going to go do Singapore. We're going to go and do Japan. And then we'll have a secondary look at our pit crew. But before that, as I said, we are having a new aerodynamic testing period. I'll have a quick look at what we want to do, either chassis or sideboard most likely. But I'll also have a quick look at suspension since we have designed that. So I'll be back in just a sec. So I've had a quick look at what would be more efficient to upgrade. And I honestly think it's the chassis. As you can see, it's not a huge amount of gains there on the first iterations. 0.07 kph. 0.03 Gs. Very minor gains here, but we aren't getting much more gains than anything else, and chassis are relatively cheap to design. They're expensive to make, so I think we're just going to do 2 of these normally. October, 30 days, we're going to need 60 days. It's going to be done by basically the last couple of races here, if we do this. So it's still going to take a while, but we are going to speed things up here with just engineers. So 40 days total, which means that our first chassis is going to be in Sao Paulo or Brazil, and then probably both cars from Las Vegas onwards. So we're just going to do it like this. We could try and rush it, but is it worth it to save a week at 300,000? Maybe you could argue that it is worth it, but at the same time, the cost cap is getting dangerously close. So we're just going to do it normally here. And this front wing, we'll have to see exactly what we're going to do with. Because again, financially, we aren't in the best shape, and I probably neglected that a little bit during the last episode. But with that said, Singapore is coming up here. We have been making new parts. And before we go into Singapore, I just want to give you a quick look at what our car currently does look like. So car 1 here has gotten most of the upgrades. We are still lacking one of the upgrades on car 2, which I believe is the side pod. So as you can see here, it's first in acceleration, DRS, low speed, medium speed, high speed. We're actually first in high speed too, but one of the parts lowers high speed compared to car 2, which is why we're second. And if we take a look here now compared to the Red Bull, we're just slightly behind in top speed. We are slightly behind in high speeds. Actually, the Red Bull is first. I was mistaken. But even then, that is a very minor gain. I was sure it was our second car, so that's on me. But even then, as I said, very minor difference. And as we get increasingly closer to top speed as well, it'll be good. I think we'll catch up to them in top speed, potentially, with the chassis upgrade. That could also be the case for high speed. We'll just have to see if they do any sort of development before the end of the season. But yeah, as I mentioned, the only thing that we currently have different on the cars is the side pod. So if we could put this on car 2, that would still be a nice little boost. So with that in mind, let's jump into Singapore. For Singapore, things could have been a little bit interesting, as we would be squeezed behind between the Red Bulls. But Verstappen has a penalty, and he was quite a bit quicker than us. We're going to be starting front row with Perez and Leclerc right behind us. For strategy, we're going to do a very simple, hard, full attack, medium, do 2 light softs. I think it's probably around the best we can do around here. The other 2 stoppers are, this one is actually slightly quicker, just from a time perspective, but the idea is very simple. We push what we can, we try and create a gap, and that way we hopefully won't have to do as many overtakes once we go on the soft, and hopefully also that'll allow us to, well, stay ahead of the Red Bulls and probably eke out a little bit of a gap before we even pit. So let's see how this works out for us. So a decent start from both of our drivers here. Do see us 1-2. But we did have an incident further towards the back. I don't think Verstappen was involved, but Hamilton for sure. Stroll, once again, being part of it. Stroll just straight up forcing Hamilton off the track. So if there's any penalty there, it should go to Stroll for sure. But yeah, good start from us. 1-2 still. We have Perez behind, then Leclerc. We have a few soft runners here, but the majority are medium runners. So we'll be seeing pit times around the same, pitting around the same time for the most part. And for Stroll here, he did get that 10-second penalty. So major collision caused. We'll have to see if there's any real damage. But yeah, we have a good start here. We are already almost getting a full second on Paris for both our drivers here. So if we can keep this going, we're probably going to be outside of DRS by the... we already are. So we'll have to see just how much of a gap we can eke or get before we get into the pit stop window. We are getting into our pit stop window here. And on this lap, we are going to be pitting Hülkenberg first. He's going to go onto the soft tire before Magnussen. He's used a little bit more of it. Magnussen will be going onto it on the next lap. But as you can see here, we have about a 6-second gap to Perez and Leclerc. Nothing major, but it's still a nice little gap. And we should come out just ahead of Albon. So that should be good. Show and Alonso could potentially be a bit of a problem, but I think it'll be fine. It won't be too long until day 2 end up hitting. So yeah, at this point, we're just going to sell in for the light run with the soft tires. And for Magnussen, as mentioned, we'll get the other pit stop set up. We'll just see with Hülkenberg here exactly where he comes out. But I would assume that he's going to come out ahead of Albon and Stroll there, and he kind of did. So we'll be working past Alonso and Show, and we'll be doing the same for Magnussen. But so far, this race is going exactly to plan, so we can be very, very happy with it. Red Bulls have both just finished their pit stop. We have Verstappen in 5th, we have Paris in 7th, and Verstappen is going for a 2-stopper. Paris is probably going to keep on going till the end with this. But as you can see, currently is looking very good. We have overtaken Sainz even, and we have a pretty significant lead on him. So far it's looking very, very promising for this race. We'll see how our status is once we get to our final pit stop. So we just got to our final pit stop, lap 38, and Verstappen has actually overtaken us, but he's also pushing his tires pretty aggressively here, so I will have to see exactly what he's planning to do here. It's gonna be a fairly interesting thing to see, because he is quite fast right now. He's running 31.8, Magnus is running 33 blanks, so he's running seconds faster than us at the moment. But I'm wondering if he's going to be able to keep it up, and if he's going on to what kind of tires going on to towards the end. Now Hulkenberg is kind of stuck by Norris. If we give him a little bit of deploy here, that should probably not be an issue, I would think, over the course of this next lap. But yeah, this is kind of the issue that you have, that you are going to get stuck behind other cars. But for the most part, it's not going to be a big issue for us. We have fresh tires, we have energy, we have a quicker car. So while we'll lose a little bit of time, I don't think it's going to matter too much in the long run here. Perez is going to be the one that we need to catch, however, as he's doing most likely just a one-stop.
The finish line and today's winner.
So unfortunately for us here, we had no real reply to Verstappen. He did manage to win by the end of this by quite the margin. Also ended up with slightly more tire than us, so potentially better strategy choices there. But considering Perez is half a minute behind him again, Verstappen just was incredibly quick this time around. Nothing really could do with it, unfortunately, which is just how Verstappen be sometimes, even in the game. But yeah, that puts us in 2nd and 3rd, which isn't a terrible result, but it means that Red Bull is still going to be quite distantly ahead of us, and you can kind of see just how fast Verstappen was here compared to both us and Perez. He had a best lap time 2 seconds quicker than our best, sorry, not 2 seconds, a second quicker than our best, and 2 seconds quicker than Perez and Leclerc. So Verstappen just pure domination this time around. Now with that, Magnus is still in charge, still leading. Hulkenberg still 4th. But in the constructors here, Red Bull eke another 5 points on us, so it's going to be a close fight towards the end of the season. Once again, it was a pretty straightforward race. Probably a bit of a failure maybe on my part of strategy. Maybe I should have taken more care of the medium. But again, Verstappen just was unbeatable this time around. Now we do have some car parts failing here. In particular, both suspensions might be a bit of an issue. We'll have a quick look at that before we speed along. But we actually do have replacement parts for both suspensions, so not really a big deal. But this does kind of tell me that it's time to start manufacturing new suspensions, and we'll be making a new spec one, of course. So let's get 4 of these made, and that's going to take another 1.2 million out of the cost cap, which again, we are getting to a point where we are financially vulnerable. Let's just put it like that. So we're going to be a little bit careful with how we deal with things, and we'll just have to kind of do things as we go here. I definitely am going to get another chassis project started the second we're done with the rear wing. That's going to be kind of important, actually. We're going to vote against this because, again, more money to the top teams, less money to the bottom teams. We don't like that. Even if we're done with the season after this, I'm going to just vote it out of principle. But yeah, nothing much on the menu here until we get to Japan. So we'll just jump straight into it. So for the Japanese Grand Prix, we qualified 1st and 3rd with a Red Bull in 2nd and 4th. Now, it was a wet quali, which led to a little bit of shenanigans, but nothing really that caused us any problems. However, the race here could definitely cause us some problems at rain. Is scheduled to arrive around lap 15, but knowing my luck lately, it could arrive slightly sooner, slightly later. So I've opted for the hard tire here to just kind of push. I think that is going to be the best option. We could, of course, try and do something with the light tire here, or sorry, the soft tire. But even then, I don't really feel that it's very worth it. We could go with the medium, but again, the problem with that is that we don't have any sort of wiggle room. And I'd like to have at least some wiggle room to, say, lap 18 or so. If we see that it is going to be problematic around lap 8 or 10, we can turn down the tire usage. That's kind of the idea here behind why we've chosen the hard tire. Now, of course, going soft here and going light is, viable. It's probably even better to some degree. But we're definitely going to have to go full attack at the beginning. And honestly, seeing this again, it is probably far more viable. So we're going to do that instead. Let's jump into this next race, see how things go, and if we actually manage to stay ahead from the rain. Decent enough start here. We retained our positions. However, both Red Bulls on hard tires leaves me extremely worried and kind of concerned that we are going to get the scenario of rain late. So we're going to start conserving our tires already now. We're going to be pushing fuel a bit harder though, and while we are conserving tires, we might get overtaken. But let's face it, we're on soft tires. As long as we take care of these, we should be able to re-overtake Verstappen. We should be able to re-overtake Perez. So I'm happy with allowing ourselves to run it a little bit more conservative. And we'll check in 7 or 6 laps times and see exactly when the rain might arrive. But I think we do have a bit of an advantage here on these soft tires. We'll just have to see if we can actually, turn it into a real advantage and not just one on paper. And we've had our first incident of the race here, virtual safety car. Magnussen might be involved, seeing that he is a little bit further back than he was, but it could just be a bad timing for the VSC. He was running within the DRS zone. Sainz there, slides and hits the wall and is out. Bit unfortunate. But yeah, so far, we are looking at a bit of a later rain arrival, I believe. As you can see, currently, tire-wise, we are looking good compared to the other soft runners. But at the same time, we are in a bit of a worrisome situation because I think the Red Bulls are still fairly quick, even without waiting. I think around lap 20 is probably when we are going to be jumping onto the wet tires. We've used about 30% so far. If we use another 30% to get to lap 20, we have about 40 left. So I think we're still going to keep on running these tires on light. And that should be fine. Virtual safety car ending in a corner for us is decent enough. But yeah, we're going to have a little bit of work here to catch up to Verstappen. So we've just been witnessed a bit of an interesting situation. And that is Verstappen pitting onto a pair of soft tires. Now, rain is slowly but surely getting pushed further and further away, so us staying out might be a terrible idea. But the question here is, do we want to pit? Do we want to mirror what Verstappen is doing? Because we could do just that, or we could gamble on just staying out. It's probably still 5-6 laps out before we get rain. And I think at this point, we just don't really have a choice. We're going to gamble on staying out. Now, Verstappen is most likely going to eat, as you can see, 2 seconds out of lap. But even then, it's going to take 6 laps for him to catch up to us. That should be lap 26. And by then, we should have plenty of water on the track. So, Perez also pitting here. Potentially, we have outplayed the hard runners. Somehow. So, we'll have to see exactly how much wet weather is arriving in 4 minutes. But this could be a bit of an interesting one. So, in terms of the rain here, over the last lap, we've gotten about 0.2 millimeters. And it keeps on going up, albeit it's probably a little bit slower now. As you can see, 0.3, 0.4. So we're going to stay out on these tires. We're going to gamble. Verstappen and Perez are going to catch up to us, most likely. But I'm kind of gambling on us being able to hold them off, as within the next 2 laps, this is going to go into Inter's territory. So are we going to be able to hold them off? That's going to be a difficult one to answer. But I think on this next lap is when we are going to try and jump into the pits. We'll just have to see that, because as mentioned, the rain levels go up very, very slowly. Mirroring what Verstappen and Perez would have done here might have been the better choice, as we're entering now the range where we could get a puncture. And even then, it is going up incredibly slow. So
The tires are dead.
the tires are death indeed. We are getting into puncture territory. We aren't really at the level where Intus would be, a great tire to be on. I'll be honest. It probably would have been better to stay out. Then again, we also did miscalculate the rain by almost 10 laps minimum. And it didn't really go up as quickly as we anticipated. It's still going to be at least probably 6 more laps until we get full inters. As you can see, it's still going to be light rain for the next 10 or so minutes until we get moderate rain. So the question now becomes, do we double stack, go onto a soft tire, just go full attack, try and get past all the cars ahead of us? I think that's going to be what we have to do. We're going to lose too much time going on an inter. We can, of course, do a split here in strategy. One car goes on inters, the other goes on softs. But we're 3 seconds quicker, 1.5 minute lap time. That would be about, what, 4 laps or so? We're not going to get a lot of the time back. We're going to be losing time for sure. There's just no way around that. But I think it is the best option that we have. It's either that or we gamble on inters already. We're going to be half a second slower. We're going to be melting these inters. We're going to have to run conserve. It might be better in the long run. So I think for Hulkenberg, we're going to do that gamble. For Magnussen, we're going to do the other gamble. The question here now is, do I want to double stack? And I think we are, but it's going to hurt Magnussen more. We kind of need Magnussen in the fight here, which is why I'm giving him the soft tire. We're gambling the other way for him. So we're going to go ahead and go next lap for Hulkenberg. I was thinking that we'd be fine here, but the rain did slow down a little bit. And as a result, it's not going up as quickly as we hoped. So for Magnussen, we're going to go in. We're going to go full attack. And for Hulkenberg here, we can only pray that he does not puncture over the course of this lap, as that would be a bit of a tragedy, as Magnussen now comes out in 8th, and we'll have a little bit of overtaking to do here. He's now 22 seconds behind Verstappen, so let's see if we can get that done before we get to, say, 90, 95, maybe a full 1 millimeter before we do pit. And it is going up very, very slow here, so it might just work out to our advantage, as Hulkenberg actually did make his way through without getting into trouble. And the secondary benefit of this is that we can probably snatch fastest lap too. So let's see how we look once we actually get to full-on wet, or rather full-on inter wear. So yeah, probably gonna be a bad time here for Hulkenberg. As you can see, his temperature is already shooting through the roof, so we might just have to run full conserve. Interesting moments here as Verstappen does his second pit stop. He pits onto inters, so we'll have to see if this actually works out for Hulkenberg, but he's already a good 20 seconds behind Verstappen. Now, Magnussen is ahead, 10 seconds behind Perez, and he's still moving fairly quick. So, while he's currently okay, we'll have to see exactly how long that's going to last for. Perez does pit now, as does the rest of the cars. I still do want to push these soft tires a little bit further, but yeah, we'll have to see. Are we extending the gap to Verstappen? We are. So as long as that gap keeps on getting extended, we're going to keep Magnussen out here. The goal is going to be probably just to beat Perez at this point, but we'll have to see how it goes. Currently on, well, second to last lap here for both Hulkenberg and Magnussen. And we are slightly running out of tyre, which is concerning, particularly as it is turning dry. But we have a bit of a gap to Perez. Unfortunately, we did not have what it took here to catch Verstappen. It would have been way better to go onto another soft tyre, probably around halfway point here. But it did work out slightly. Probably would have been better for Hulkenberg too to give him a soft tire to try and chase down the other cars here. But all in all, I say this is a decent enough recovery from a wet race that I completely misjudged. Probably need to start investing into the weather center a little bit, as it does kind of bite us in the arse. But second and third and kind of maintaining our current situation is not the worst thing, as we have a crash after at the end of the race. And I believe that is Leclerc overtaking a back marker and then getting put in a bit of a bad spot there, as Norris is out. No, it wasn't actually. They were fighting together. No, my bad. Yeah, Leclerc is still parked, but not out, as far as I can see. So that's a bit of a weird one. Hopefully this doesn't glitch him out and he wins the race, because that would be, I guess that could be why we're seeing that bug, maybe. Yeah, bit of a weird end here to the race, but Leclerc is most certainly also out, even though it doesn't really say so here. But yeah, probably should have learned from my last error, but is this going to go on forever now, because Leclerc is still technically running? I'll be back in a bit when the race actually finishes. So, funnily enough, I got a phone call as I was waiting for the race here to finish. It did finish, but I don't know how long it took. So Leclerc here, it just says he's 1 lap down, which I guess is accurate. But the race had passed by at least another 15, 30 minutes after race end in-game before I got that phone call. But luckily, just waiting seems to have solved the issue, so that is good. So Verstappen wins, we come second and third. We have Perez in fourth, which is kind of what we are interested in here. Stroll and Alonso, fifth and sixth, then the Mercedes, then the Alpines, as both Ferraris did DNF. In terms of drivers then, Magnussen, once again, getting caught up a little bit here. Just 21 points now separates him and Verstappen. And Hulkenberg still having not the best time down in fourth. Constructors then, 3 more points goes the ways of Red Bull. But we're still close, and it's still going to be somewhat of a close fight here. I can at least only hope. But for now, that should be, I think, good enough. In terms of our sponsorships here, they're going well as well. Best way I can describe it. But we do have that issue with the chassis that we don't really have any spare ones, and that's going to be a bit of a problem here. Let's see in terms of cast part inspection. Luckily, just a front wing this time around, but I think maybe after next or maybe next 2 races, the chassis is going to become more of an issue. So let's go ahead here and immediately get 2 more of those made. It's going to take us a month, and that's kind of the thing here. It takes a long time for us to make chassis. Do I want to rush one of them? Maybe. So I think what we do here is just do 14 days. That means we're going to get it done exactly, basically as soon as we're done with the sale. And then we can emergency manufacture another one if we need to before Austin. That's going to be the idea at least. Now, next up, I'm just going to quickly go ahead and that's the wrong tab. That's also the wrong tab. Place the front wing, and we're also going to be making more side pods, underfloors. You get the idea. We have a bunch of car parts that are currently just lacking a little bit. That's the best way I can describe it. We're lacking some parts. Underfloor, suspension, we're making these. But again, we're spending a lot of money on parts, and that's going to be an issue towards the end of the season. I think we got everything sorted. There's nothing in particular on the calendar at this point before we go into Qatar. We do have both design projects finishing this month or in this period, however. And I'm also going to have a quick look at our pick route and see where we are at. We're currently tied at 56%, which is not a great look, honestly. If we go into cumulative screen here, what I think we're going to do is we're just going to have to eat the fact that we have slower pit stops. It's very hard to lower pit stop time, honestly. It's much, much easier to lower the chance of error. And lowering the chance of error is going to come with its own benefits, so I'm happily doing so. And we'll do it like this, so we're fully rested going into the sprint weekend. I think that's going to be kind of important here. So we'll focus on error chance. I think it's just going to benefit us more. So we just have to eat that slow pit stop. Next up, let's speed along here and see what that front wing is like. If it actually is something we'd like to manufacture. Well, we're already making another one at the moment. But we can check it out in the warehouse as we also get the underfloor finished. And this is kind of a small upgrade. 844. Did we maybe CFD this one? But this is also with minimum weight. So that's also a bit of a problem financially. But I do want to have a look if the front wing is actually worth making another one of. Basically. And by the looks of this, probably not. Again, we are using a bit of a weighted front wing here. So as you see, the gains aren't anything massive. So of course, we're going to be using a better design, but we're not going to be designing another one as well. It's just not worth it. And I do like to check, just to be on the safe side, if there is value in making another one. We can reduce the factory event obligations. We are going to cancel the factory events. Thank you. 5 more days of manufacturing capabilities over the course of the season is going to be very, very nice. Now, this is a chance that we did use. I was about to say use side pods on. This is the chance this is the chance we did use CFD time on. And 0.773. I'll see if we get another bigger boost by making more of them. And again, we are still going to have to manufacture the chassis we did manufacture, because it's still going to take us some time to get another one made. It takes a bit of effort. So there's no real problem waiting. Now, in terms of our top speed here, we get about 3 times as much as we got on the one we use safety time on. A lot more high speed, which is, I think, enough that will overtake Red Bull. and it is. We'll get a lot quicker. I'm a little bit unsettled, maybe, as you can hear at the moment. To be perfectly honest, the phone call was from a previous workplace that wanted to try and poach me back from my current one. So I guess they regret allowing me to go to a different place that paid higher, because now they're basically offering me to come back with higher pay than what I currently have. So bit of a funny one, honestly. But yeah, I'm currently having that in the back of my mind while I'm also trying to get this done. So let's just jump into Lusail, Qatar here. It is a race that generally is very much probably going to go our way. AI is notoriously aggressive here in terms of burning their tires. So let's see what we can do at this sprint weekend. The Qatar quali is done, and well, Hulkenberg did not have a good time in Q3. He just could not get a decent time here. He's 4/10 slower than his Q1 and Q2 time, even on fresh tires. And on the opposite side here, we have Magnussen, who set his best time pretty much. So yeah, a bit of a rough time here for our team. We're going to have Verstappen and Perez behind, and Hulkenberg is going to have a little bit of work to climb back up, but I have hopes for it. For now, though, we're going to get through practice 2 and then get probably our strategy set up for the sprint. So for the sprint here, we're going to be very passive because, well, if you run your tires on standard, you're going to destroy them. If you run them on aggressive, you're going to absolutely demolish them. So we're going to run it on light here for the entirety of the sprint. And the goal is very simple. Try and get something done in the last 4 laps, maintained for the most part. The AI will destroy their tires, and some will most likely have a puncture. So we're going to try and take advantage of that. And we might lose a position or two at the beginning of the sprint, but I'm fine with that. If it happens, the Red Bulls might jump us, but again, sprint doesn't score too many points, so I'd rather play it a little bit safer. We could, of course, have gone for a medium tire, but I think it's fine to just run the softs on light. That shouldn't be a big deal. Now,
Just be careful.
as I mentioned, because we are running light, we could, of course, get overtaken, but I still do have faith that we'll be fine here. So with a decent start, Magnus and Hulkenberg both kind of retaining their places. Let's see how this goes over the course of this sprint. So again, just to give you a little bit of an idea how badly the AI demolishes their tires, we are basically a little bit of a halfway through this, and most of them have used over 50%. We've used basically 35%. So we have a fairly high tire advantage at this point. And for Magnussen, that should translate into him getting the win. And for Hulkenberg here, it's kind of translating into increasing his position pretty rapidly, I might add. So 3rd place, probably not out of the picture. We'll try and make that happen. So currently looking very, very good here. We are about to start the final lap with Magnussen in the lead. We do need to turn down the fuel usage though before he runs out. Hulkenberg has made his way up into 3rd. And Perez had a spin that has cost him dearly. And as you can see, our first victim here of running out of tire. Now, I don't think Hulkenberg could have caught Verstappen here. We just got stuck a little bit too much behind other cars. But we could also see more punctures here. We could see Perez ending up in trouble, falling further back if he does puncture. So the sprint here turned out fairly well for us, mainly due to the Perez tumble. And we'll now have to, well, take advantage of this during the race. So this is a strategy that I think we're going to be employing. We're going to be starting on the hards. We're going to go full attack. Then we'll do 2 soft stints, so we do a little bit more lighter. Maybe try and go for fast laps toward the end if we can pit for another soft. But this is basically the best we have available to us, I think. If we do one stop here, it's going to be 7 seconds slower, which is quite a lot, and we're going to have to run light from the get-go. If we want to do this strategy with 2 mediums and a soft, it is also somewhat viable, but it is slightly slower. But we do have a bunch of mediums available. We have a bunch of softs available. It is a sprint weekend after all. But I think this is what we're going to go for. It's pretty straightforward and basic. And it should also allow Hulkenberg to maybe get a little bit more done. So we'll stick with this strategy. Let's see how it turns out. Decent start for us. We are maintaining. Hulkenberg is still maintaining 3rd. He did have a little bit of luck on Verstappen. We're the only hard runners at the moment, but most of the cars there are running mediums, so there shouldn't be too much of a disparity, at least initially. So I'm happy with our choices, to be perfectly honest. With that though, we're just going to keep on kind of maintaining position like we usually do. You can see that Magnussen and Verstappen is a bit quicker. But yeah, goal is very simple. Maintain position and then try and get the overtaking done. Once we get onto the soft tire, I do think we have a fairly high good advantage here, as I do tend to absolutely destroy their tires. Let's see if that is the case today as well. As Hulkenberg,
I'm sorry about that, guys.
wow,
Yeah, we're good.
pulls a little bit of a different
Here we
one.
are,
So,
down at turn 7.
how do we want to handle this? Because Hulkenberg now has, well, weaker tires for one. And I think the way that we actually adapt this situation is going to be very, very simple. In the sense that we just turn one of these into a medium stint. And you can already see it's going to be a couple of seconds slower. But let's face it, we don't really have any other options. We could go full attack just to try and catch up and get some overtakes done during the pitting. But I think we just run it standard. We're going to run these hard tires into the ground. And then we jump onto the medium set. And I do think that is going to be worth it. But we definitely are going to need to try and get him back into the points here today. We have a very close fight with the Red Bulls, and Hulkenberg is going to be important to get back up into that fight. But now, though, we are going to maintain. Hulkenberg has got back up to the pack here. We're going to start getting some overtaking done and rebuilding that confidence. We have a virtual safety car, and my first thought here is that we're going to take advantage of that with Hulkenberg,
Now what's happened
as
with Gasly there?
he's already getting close to the end of his stint. Gasly here has crashed out. Spin into the wall.
I got some.
Bit unfortunate, but it does happen. But yeah, I think the goal here is going to be, as I mentioned, we're going to get Hulkenberg in. We're going to put him on the medium. And I think the key here is that we run the mediums on light. I think that's going to allow us to do basically this strategy without any problems. We are going to be coming out towards the back.
Not sure where.
But that's not really
Just
that
watch
surprising.
the
We
data
have
on the track.
just basically started doing a bit of overtaking. As you can see, we made our way past some of the cars. We got the confidence back up to very high. It is looking good from that perspective. And if we take a quick look at the race report, time consideration, we save about 6 seconds pitting early. So I think it is worth it in the long run. Piastri also takes the opportunity here to pit. And as I said, I think it's going to be worth it in the grand scheme of things. Magnussen has been doing well as well. 6 seconds ahead of Verstappen, 11 seconds ahead of Leclerc. So looks like hopefully the win is going to be in the bag there. Hulkenberg is going to be the question mark, if you will, that we're going to have to do our best to move up the grid order. We are nearing the completion of the first set of pit stops. Leclerc, Russell, while Piastri pitted early, are basically the only ones that haven't pit yet. And as you can see, Verstappen has gone to the soft tire as well, but he's already used more of it than Magnussen did, and we still are maintaining a bit of a healthy lead here. He is catching up, don't get me wrong. Same for Paris, but they're burning their tires so quickly that they're either going to have to go for a hard tire, a medium tire, or potentially even 2 more stops, or we could see punctures. So it's looking very, very good from that perspective. As Hulkenberg now is going to make his way up into what I hope to be 7th place. Couldn't get the overtake done on Piastri. Again, Piastri is basically the one with the worst tires at this point because everyone else has pitted for the most part. But Hulkenberg is doing a good job here and should hopefully get up to the Ferraris, maybe, before we have to pit again. Although they're going to be fairly quick as they have fresher tires, so we'll have to see exactly how well that goes. But clearing Piastri, clearing Ocon quickly is going to be key. We're getting increasingly closer to the end here, and as Hulkenberg made his way up to 6th. Unfortunately, we're not getting the Ferraris, they're just too far ahead with just 3 laps to go. But Magnussen does look like he's going to get past his lap, and also the race win. Now, we had a bit of a pit stop issue with him, but it didn't really compromise his race in any way, shape, or form. The Red Bulls have been pushing on their medium tires to kind of try and catch up. So, while it was a little bit hairy, it wasn't really a big deal. And now we have another incident with multiple cars crashing.
That's not looking good
And
for Charles Leclerc.
it's the Ferraris, maybe. Is he going to crash into us? Yeah. He just ran into the back of... No, sorry. We're Haas, we're not AlphaTauri. He ran into the back of a backmarker. I had a really, really bad mind thought there. So Leclerc ran into the back of the AlphaTauri. Luckily, not a massive hit. But a bad enough hit, I guess. Unfortunately for us, not really enough that we caught him up, but yeah, I've been playing AlphaTauri for so long that I was sure he ran into us there for some silly reason. But yeah, we're playing Haas. 5-second penalty though. Hulkenberg. This is your moment to shine. Can you take 1.7 seconds out of Leclerc's time on this final lap? Well, 8 seconds now. Sorry, 3 seconds now. I need you to push everything that you have in your car. I would love to see this one, just to see lap times. But at the same time, it's gonna be more vital that we turn down the fuel usage the second this hits 0.
That was perfect.
Magnussen is happy. We are within 5 seconds of
Magnussen
Leclerc,
takes home the win.
but I'd like to push a little bit harder to be on the safe side. Puncture there for Norris, I believe. Or is it Piastri? Yeah, it's Piastri. And with that, actually, that's frustrating.
That's a checker flag, mate.
Okay, for those that might not have caught it, the reason why we're not within 5 seconds of Leclerc is because Piastri had a puncture, we got stuck behind Piastri, and we wasted a lot of time. And we can probably have a look at this in the data view. If we look at the lap history for Hulkenberg here, the final lap. So we were doing 26 threes, 26 zeros. And on the final lap, when we were pushing with full attack, with fuel, with energy, we lost basically 2 seconds or so, at the very least, in that final sector. We were also 3/10 quicker in the post sector. We were a little bit late to go in the aggressive. We got over a second in sector 2. Probably would have gotten at least half a tenth in sector 3 as well. So this is incredibly frustrating that we lost out this much just because Piastri had a bit of a puncture. And, well, it is unfortunate. It is 2 points. But at the same time, it happens. It's better to, take a little bit careful than to crash. But with this race here, 26 points plus 36. Basically, we are going to gain something on Red Bull just from this race alone, so it's not really a total miss. But 2 more points would have been nice. Let's just put it like that. Now with that, and the fact that it's sprint weekend, we do extend the gap to on Verstappen to now 30 points. Hulkenberg not really catching Paris at this stage. Probably not going to catch him before the end of the season, which is unfortunate. But we're now once again within 20 points of the Red Bull in front. And next time around, we have the other sprint weekend. So we'll have to see exactly how that goes. I believe it's Austin. Next up, another place that eats tires. So that could be fairly interesting. Now with that, we have the chassis that we wanted replenished. We had a suspension failure and a rear wing failure. But I could imagine that we're going to have a chassis failure in the future. We are also going to have to start using the new suspensions here, I think. Might as well just get started on them. And for the side pods now, I do believe we have another one that we can put on car 2. But we definitely need to manufacture more of these as well. So, yeah, a bit of a rough time all around here. The suspensions, we're currently manufacturing them. The chassis, I'm gonna leave it be because we're gonna be making new chassis in the near future, anyways. So we're not gonna be making any new ones for the time being. Side pod, suspension, rear wing, those are the 3 that we want to be making, and we are. So it looks like we are good on that front. But yeah, we're going into United States in 11 days. Because of that, we'll take a quick look at our pit crew, see what they're doing, how they're holding up. And, well, we're going to get 1 more day, and then we'll get the month tick over. Then we can actually get the pit crew set up, so no big deal there. However, I don't think I have time to do the United States GP today. I do need to deal with the issue that I mentioned earlier about work. So, do I want to do 4 races next time? That's going to be the question, or rather 5 races. 6 races? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to do Coda 2, I think, because we kind of have to. As I said, I want to get this done in probably about 2 episodes, speed up progression a little bit this weekend. So, yeah, we're going to sit down. We're going to get the Coda done as well. So let's speed along until we get there. Love to see what we get here in terms of driver growth. Hopefully we get some points. That's all I can really pray for. And Red Bull has definitely overtaken us now in the high-speed cornering department. So, yeah, a bit worrisome. Maximum adaptability now for Magnussen. That should be an achievement. Accuracy, braking. Good growth here for everyone. Porsche is also growing neatly here. Can't really complain. And in terms of our pit crew, that's going to be probably a little bit of a different matter. But once again, we're just going to focus on getting that error chance down. It is the end of the year, so there's no real point at this point to, well, I didn't mean to say it like that. There's no real point to actually focus on getting the pit stop times down because it's not going to benefit us next year. And if we can get the chance of a mistake down to, say, 10%, that would be far more valuable to us in the long run than getting an extra tenth of the stop time. So that is my personal opinion on it. You can have differing of opinions. That's fine. But honestly, that is how I'm going to do things. For now, though, let's jump into the United States GP. Well, here went fairly well with us beating Verstappen here by 9 thousandths. So that was very close. Hulkenberg beating Perez with basically 500s. So a lot of close fighting here. Well, 400s really. Yeah, I was wrong. 400s. But yeah, very close here now. Once again, between us, which should make things a little bit interesting. Verstappen is going to be eating a penalty though. So we'll have to see how drastic that is going to be. But for Hulkenberg, we're most likely going to eat a gearbox penalty. Probably not here, but probably in Mexico. So that's going to keep things still a little bit interesting. But for now, we're going to get practice done, and then we'll head into the first sprint. So for the sprint here, we're going to be facing a little bit of an interesting situation called rain. And pretty bad rain, in the sense that potentially we might go into this before we go wet, so we don't even know. This is going to be very, very challenging to figure out. It could also be that the rain just doesn't show up until it gets delayed until the end of the sprint. It's hard to guess here, so we're going to go with the medium tire. That way we have a little bit of flexibility. It's going to be, you know, slightly slower than the soft. Well, it's actually going to be quicker than the soft, in theory. But probably slightly slower if we do end up with the rain where it is. So medium is going to be the way to go here for us. It's just that simple. We are going to go a little bit aggressive on the first half a lap or so, at least first couple of corners. But this is going to be very, very difficult in terms of the rain, and hopefully we can deal with it. We'll just have to see. Now, everyone has chosen the mediums for the most part, so no big surprises here. But yeah, the main thing now for this sprint to be successful is getting the rain correctly, I'm pretty sure. With Hulkenberg already launching a bit of an attack here and actually making his way through. So we're going to go ahead and already just turn these tires to standard. And that should be fine. Since we're running 1-2, we should have a little bit of defense from both of our cars. And yeah, we'll keep on working, trying to retain this 1-2 until we get to the rainy period. Maybe create a little bit of a gap between our cars. But we'll have to see what we can pull off here. We have a virtual safety car, and what I assume is going to be a red flag here, since I can't really interact with anything. Hamilton and Albon out. I sent oh, okay.
What's an idiot?
That was a little bit more brutal than I anticipated. I thought it was just Hamilton getting sent and getting his suspension destroyed. That was clearly not the case. And conditions on restart here is going to be dry, but with moderate rain. 42 millimeters of water on the track. 3 minutes is still going to be moderate rain. It should be a long enough race now, or sprint, because we've just done a couple of laps, 6 out of 19. That I think going into wets might be worth it. But again, it's kind of hard to judge this when you don't have the full view on restart. So this could also be us just destroying this race for us. But it is raining at the moment. I assume we'll be seeing, yeah, a lot of inter tires. So we didn't make the wrong choice, at the very least. If the AI is on the same tire as you, that is generally a good indication that you haven't actually made a wrong choice. And as you can see, condition restart, a little bit more rain than anticipated. But yeah, we're going to be pushing in now just for these, at least the first couple of laps. We can probably push these tires until the end of the sprint, no problem. Albon is the one that got punished with a penalty as he caused a major collision. And the main thing here now is just going to be push everything that we have. We do want to do that. It's just 12 laps. There's no reason not to. We might end up burning these tires a little bit. But again, that shouldn't be a big deal. We are going to get full wets in just a couple of laps time. So, yeah, no reason to hold back. Create as big of a gap as we can to the cars behind. And then we'll jump onto the wet tires in just a few laps time. So we already had some cars pitting. And as you can see here, they are going in the wets. Verstappen, one of the first to switch over. And what I am thinking we do here is actually get one of the cars in now, which is going to be Magnussen. We're going to get him in on the wets before we do anyone else. There is a bit of a gap, 6 seconds down to Perez. That should make pitting a lot safer. I'm still going to allow Hulkenberg to do one more lap here. Might backfire, but honestly, it might also be kind of what is needed. Magnussen comes out quite clear there of Verstappen, so that is great. And now we just do Hulkenberg, get him in here. But everyone ahead of us does need to pit. Rick and Debris are actually holding up Verstappen a little bit, which is good. But the question now is, where does Hulkenberg come out? Does he come out ahead of Verstappen, or does he come out behind? He should come out ahead. Not ahead of Magnussen, but ahead of Verstappen at least. And again, everyone else is going to need to pit at some time. At one point, we are going to get the overtakes done, no problem. So this should be, unless we crash, a pretty simple 1-2 scenario. The sprint here has gone exactly as expected. As Leclerc has a bit of a spin here towards the end. But yeah, Magnussen now is crossing the line. He is going to be winning the sprint. We have Hulkenberg second, Verstappen 8 seconds down the road. So a couple of points to gain on Red Bull, but they did get third and fourth, so minimizing the damage there. And,
checkered flag.
well, Leclerc's not having a good time currently with the incident he had last race, and also now the incident that, well, not last race, in Japan, and now also the incident that he had here. Kind of struggling a little bit. But Verstappen is going to take a penalty. We don't know how harsh that penalty is going to be, but hopefully the harshest ever is. For our sake, more so, rather than to be mean or anything like that. But yeah, for the race here on Sunday, we also have a little bit of rain, which is going to make things interesting. But luckily enough, this should just be straight up inters. We might end up pitting once again. I think the strategy here is going to be simple. We get on the hard tire, we push them as hard as we can, really. And if we need to, we will just, if we see the rain is coming later, we'll just go on another set of softs and make up that time loss for going aggressive on the hards. We're going to try to be a little bit proactive this time around. And as you can see here, we're most likely going to need to do 2 sets of inters anyways, just to get it to the end. So that is exactly what we'll do. Probably run a little bit more aggressive, but we'll make some adjustments during the race itself. But this is the strategy that we're going to be going with for both cars. So once again here, we're seeing some soft tires, we're seeing medium tires, which does hint towards the AI believing the rain is going to come sooner. So we'll have to see about that. We do run things fairly aggressive though, which is, you know, not really that positive for us. Perez is currently running second. Verstappen seems to have eaten a 5-place penalty down in 7th. But as mentioned, I don't think that is going to be much of a big deal as long as we get the pit stops correct here. So currently, just to remind you, order around lap 20. We'll see what we can do to get there. Probably going a little bit too aggressive here on the hard tire, to be fair. But I have hopes that we can create a bit of a gap. Might be that we need to turn it down to aggressive. Probably should, honestly. But we'll see here if it moves sooner or later. Whichever it be. Soft tires is something that we might go on to just to build confidence before the rain arrives. We now have a safety car, which I think is gonna have a lot of cars coming into the pits. Gasly and was that Albon? Okay, that was
Sick every time.
yeah, I don't think you're the one that got, you know, slapped the hardest at Gasly by the looks of things. Oh, it was Gasly. It just focused on the other car. So we're gonna have a safety car here. Some cars have taken the advantage to pit, which is potentially gonna harm us a little bit. But as you can see, everyone is running the fairly aggressive strategy here, I might say. And the rain now is moving closer to, say, lap 10. The question now is going to be very simple. Do we benefit from the safety car? Do we pit, get onto a soft tire? And I think we do. I think everyone is going to end up pitting for the most part. So there's no reason for us not to take advantage of that and pit as well. We are probably going to be beaten by the Red Bulls out for both of our cars.
Safety car, stay out, stay out. You need to be plus on the delta time.
Yeah, it was Sonoda and
Plus on the
Albon.
delta time.
But yeah, I think we just do
on delta time, okay?
pit here. I think that's going to pay off more so than if we
Keep
do
your tire
not.
temp.
Verstappen stays out. That's a bit surprising. We do beat Perez out, but not anyone else by the looks of things. Hulkenberg coming out in 9th does kind of sting, but Magnussen in 4th now with fresh tires is a huge advantage. It's just a bit unfortunate we couldn't get the same done with Hulkenberg. Couldn't really get the gaps created, but this does, again, potentially make a very interesting restart, as rain is going to slowly trickle in, but even then, it might be close to lap 20 before we actually do jump onto, you know, a wet, well, an into tire. So the restart here is going to be fairly interesting. I think I'm comfortable running the soft tire on aggressive, maybe. See here. Let's just add another stint. That is a soft tire. Can you survive till lap 20 on aggressive? You can, just about. Is it going to save? Well, can't really use the save time feature here unless we put a stint in right there. But I think running aggressive is perfectly viable here. It should be fine to go a little bit aggressive here, try and make up some places immediately. And that's exactly what we'll do. Rain has arrived. It has started building. And we might actually need to pit again under this safety car. If it goes for a few more laps, we'll see. But now it's going up fairly rapidly. Do we want to jump in? Safety car is ending.
Safety car is in this lap.
So since the safety car is ending, we're going to go at least one more lap before we pit. And then we'll take it from there. Full on attack here is what we'll go for. So a bit more of an interesting race for this final one, which is why I've elected to show a bit more. Magnussen gets the overtake done. Hulkenberg and Norris have both... Hulkenberg and, well, Perez have both got an overtake done. The question now is just when is going to be a good time to pit. And honestly, I think this lap is going to be a good one to pit for both of our cars. Rain did arrive 14 rather than 20, so it is hard to estimate. That's the best way I can describe it, and that is very annoying to really admit that it is that difficult to estimate when the rain arrives. And Verstappen is probably going to jump us pretty aggressively. Maybe not. Just about out ahead of him. We just need to take care of our tires now so that we don't burn them. But as I mentioned earlier, we are most likely going to do a two-stopper on the Inter. So we'll be working the tires here, trying to work out positions. Perez down in 9th, so it's looking good for us so far. So as I mentioned, we wanted to do a two-stopper here. We basically have gotten there. Lap 15 is when we pitted. We've gone 20 laps on these tires, running aggressive. So we're going to jump in and get ourselves a new set of Inters. It's going to be about 1.5 seconds quicker a lap. So over the next 20 laps, if we take good care of them, we should be able to catch Verstappen no problem, which is kind of the idea behind doing two sets of tires here. Now Hulkenberg is going to come out most likely ahead of Piastri, but probably behind Russell, as shouldn't be too surprising. So just one overtake to do for him. That should make his life a little bit easier. For Magnussen, it should be the same kind of deal. We might be able to sneak our way out ahead of Russell. We'll have to see. But we'll be trying our best here to get the time back and catch the car in front. For Magnussen, I think I forgot to tune down his tires, so we'll have to do that once he comes out of the pits. But currently, it is looking very, very good here. And Magnussen, as mentioned, should have no problem catching Verstappen from this point forward. So let's see how it looks once we get a little bit closer to the end of this race. Good news, the weather's done a bit of a change here. We're going to have a dry end to this race, so that's going to make things a little bit exciting here. So we need Magnussen really to just get on with it, if you will. Get the overtake done, and then get kind of running away here. So what I think we do now is actually get Hulkenberg in first. We're going to get him in immediately. And unfortunately for me, we didn't catch it quick enough. Degradation wise would be nice, but yeah, I thought we were going to have Inters until the end. So we're going to go soft tires here. Even if we burn them on full attack, it should be a-okay. I think we'll take Hulkenberg in first, and then we'll take Magnussen out on this following lap. We'll go ahead and push. We'll go ahead and deploy. Try and see if we can get catch Verstappen by the end of this one. But I think that's going to be a bit of a tough one, as Hulkenberg now comes out 6 seconds behind. And it's going to have a bit of a job ahead of him as well to catch Verstappen. We'll have to see now exactly how it looks for Magnussen. But most likely going to come out a bit behind. Definitely did a mistake at doing another lap. Might even come out behind Hulkenberg by the looks of things. Just about behind Verstappen. Gonna have Hulkenberg here go for fastest lap immediately. Probably should have him deploy a little bit earlier for that. But the current change in the weather, if you will, has definitely helped out Verstappen more than it has us. 10 laps to go. Both cars in good positions. Perez is further down the road. So if we can get both cars past Verstappen, this would have been an amazing weekend. So unfortunate for us, we had a couple of unfortunate incidents here, namely the fact that Rick ended up blocking Magnussen enough that Verstappen got away, which sucked. We also burned the tires a little bit more than anticipated. So just a shame that we couldn't get him. If we had paid a little bit earlier on the inters, probably would have paid off better. That's my bad for not checking the weather reports as often as I should have. The Perez does come 6th, so all in all, not the worst race weekend ever, but also not really our best either. Let's just put it like that. 2nd and 3rd is our result here, and with that, Verstappen is going to gain a little bit of Magnussen. But I think we are catching up to Red Bull in the grand total scheme of things. So 4 points gained there in the battle between Verstappen and Magnussen. Still a healthy lead, don't get me wrong. And Hulkenberg here is catching up a little bit more to Perez. Constructors then, we are 16 points behind. We have 4 races to go. I think I was a little bit flustered when I said that we had 6 races if I didn't do this one. That was straight up wrong. That's the best way I can describe it. We also have our new chassis now. But yeah, if we go into the circuits here, 4 races remaining. Just me being flustered and not thinking properly, as tends to happen every now and again. But yeah, it is what it is. We have the new chassis here ready, the final one that is going to bump us back up into, first place. Going to give us a little bit more top speed as well, to the point where we're only beaten by the Red Bull, I believe. And as you can see here, we are struggling a little bit with manufacturing. So let's see, we can get 1 done before Brazil, and 17 days for both. So yeah, both are going to have a chassis by Las Vegas, and I think that should be fine. We'll just make these 2. That shouldn't be a big deal. We'll rush them, and that's just how things are going to have to be. For the rest of the parts here, I don't think there's any really big things that we can do. We already have generally everything that we kind of want. So there's nothing else we can do development-wise at this point. We'll just have to live with what we have. But yeah, this was the end of this episode. Took a little bit longer to record than I wanted. Did have to take a little bit of break in the middle. Let me know what you think about this. Have I cut out too much? Is this the right amount of fluff for when things doesn't really, when races doesn't really happen? It's a good way to summarize things. As an example, we had a lot of incidents happen at Qatar. We had less incidents happen in basically every other race, like Monza. So yeah, let me know what you think. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.